Cross-country kids are the salt of the earth. They understand what it's like to work hard.
Forry Flaagan. Flaagan is a 1968 Mayville, North Dakota high school grad and a 1977 UND Fighting Sioux alum who guided the Rapid City Stevens cross-country program to unparalleled success. He was the head Raiders cross-country coach and track and field distance coach from 1988 to 2010. In that time, Stevens won 19 state cross-country titles, 9 girls, 10 boys. The boys' titles were all in a row from 95 to 2004, while 8 of the girls' titles were in a row. Those title streaks are by far the best in state history in cross-country. As a track assistant at Stevens, Flaagan was part of 7 boys and 15 girls state title teams. He got his start coaching in Spearfish as an assistant junior high boys track coach for 2 years before becoming the head cross-country coach and assistant track coach from 1979 to 1985. He guided the Spartans to a state cross-country title in 1983 and again in '84. Flaagan was the National Girls Cross-Country Coach of the Year in 1999 and a finalist for the Boys Award in 2000 and 2003.
Once again, I'm going to take a minute and thank the folks here for putting this together, doing all this. But first of all, I and all of you need to be thankful to Marilyn, the pretty lady with me here, for helping me get presentable. You saw some of those pictures there. And honestly, I was a hell of a lot more comfortable there than I am here. My introduction to sports, my dad was a coach, pretty successful one, and he was a basketball referee. And when I was a little kid, 4, 5, 6 years old, my dad would load me up in the 53 Pontiac, and we'd drive over to Fort Totten and pick up Milo Buffalo, my dad's reffing partner. And we'd go over and they'd get their ref clothes on. Dad would set me on the end of the bench and have the scorekeeper keep an eye on me. And then after the game, we'd hop back in the car. We'd swing by the local package store and pick up a 6-pack. Dad would put it on my lap, and it was my job to make sure that he and Milo had their beers on the way home to talk about how the game went. So that was my introduction to sports, and and I kind of carried a little bit of that attitude myself. Anyways, I always tell people that my mom was Irish and my dad was Norwegian, and all that means is that I had an ego, but I didn't know what the hell to do with it. But I have to say they supported me and taught me. But left the coaching to my coaches. My 7 siblings, I got 4 sisters and 3 brothers, and we made everything competitive. And win, lose, draw, you always play to the end. And that was kind of the other part of things that I took to my own sports and to my coaching. I think you heard on there, or you saw in the program, I never saw a cross-country meet till the first one I coached. So I knew I'd played football, played basketball, ran track, but had no idea what the heck I was getting myself into when they came and asked me to be the head cross-country coach. Although they did tell me they were going to cut the program in 2 years, so there's no pressure. And 2 years later, they did, and I had some folks show up at the board meeting and change their mind. I also have to say my daughters, Allie and Jolene, they're not here tonight, but I also have to thank them for keeping me anchored, because several different times they asked me, Dad, when do we get to be one of your kids? And that kept me pretty well grounded. And I did my best to support and teach them as my parents did me. but I tried to leave the coaching to their coaches. And I thank Allie for bringing my wonderful son-in-law Bosco into my life, and along with their gals Sophia and Mila. And my daughter Jolene, who was fortunate enough to play for Ron in high school, for bringing Sonia and Kat and their energy into my life. I need to thank the folks from Spearfish High School for giving me the opportunity to discover an ability in myself that I never knew I had. I'd gotten away from sports. I went to college a couple years and then dropped out and worked construction for a few years and then went back to college. And, but never had any idea that I'd ever be a coach. And then I took a little bit of a hiatus there and was a contract carpenter in Spearfish. And then one day I was working on a scaffold, putting siding on a townhouse, and a voice behind me says, "Hey, you know what the heck you doing up there?" And I turned around and it was Kenny Lindstrom, the cross-country and track coach from Stevens High School. And he said, "Come on down here, you guys, it's lunchtime, I need to talk to Forry." And he asked me if I'd care to be his distance coach, because his distance coach had to retire. And we'd competed against each other while I was coaching at Spearfish. Well, then Dwayne Whalen stepped in and kind of came out of his comfort zone and took a chance on hiring me, somebody that sure as heck didn't fit his mold for what a coach should be. But fortunately, I had that opportunity. And I also need to thank some track coaches head track coaches that I worked with. Dwayne Tordoff at Spearfish, Kenny Lindstrom for that one season at Stevens, Lemoyne Trout, who was one of my very dear friends, and Paul Hendry, who was my neighbor for a while, actually. They put up with me and they allowed me to become involved in what the big picture of track and field really is. I'd like to take a minute to thank the coaches that I competed with for openly sharing with me their knowledge, but most importantly, their love and passion for the sport. And not just cross country, but for all sports. I've worked with some wonderful people, and when I say with some wonderful people, I mean coaches that I competed with. My late friend, Dave Scott, who really did a lot for me, just tremendous. But I also want to take a minute. I want to take a minute and introduce somebody here. He's going to be pissed at me for having him stand up, but Doc, you want to stand up for a minute, please? Not even a minute, just a couple seconds. Now, I'm not going to let him talk. But Doc and I worked together for about 24 years at Stevens, and we spent a lot of time laughing our way through many years. And I often think that without Doc translating, the kids might not have learned a whole heck of a lot, because I'd get talking and words would get mixed up, thoughts would get mixed up, and then I'd get done and Doc would get up and then he'd kind of straighten everything out. I always thought he was repeating what I said until I realized it was making sense. My kids, or athletes, if you will, more than any championship, I'm probably most proud of the autonomy that my athletes learned and earned. The sense of responsibility to the team that brings reward to them. My seniors earned the pedestal that I put them on and the privilege of leadership. And I always thought that leadership is a privilege. It's not something you're handed. You have to earn it, and you have to understand what it's for. And I'm also very thankful for the years that the kids spent teaching me of their differences, their hopes, and their dreams. Where'd page 4 go? Oh, here it is. Okay, all this comes from one simple, for some, but hard to grasp concept for others. Gotcha, Jerry. The most important person on this team is the one standing next to you. And those of you that have been athletes in any sport, even something like rodeo, where a lot of people think, well, you're just out there doing it by yourself. No, you're not. Even if you're competing with somebody, that's the most important person to you, because watching them and learning from them and playing for them, no matter what it is, the most important person is the person standing next to you. You have to respect and value that person, whether you're a coach, whether you're an athlete, or whether you're a parent. You have to understand that the most important person is the person standing next to you. Lastly, through the last part of my coaching career and now continuing on since I've retired, I've had some really wonderful support from some well-known coaches for their encouragement and getting me involved with the National High School Athletic Coaches Association. I definitely need to thank, even though Jerry's going to make me sit down in a minute, Jerry Miller, Verge Polak, Wayne Carney, Max Hawk, Dave Dolan, Ken Bruckner, and Bill Weber, who are all part of the National High School Coaches Association. They've gotten me involved, and they've widened my world and opened my eyes to so many opportunities that I never thought I would ever have. It's just amazing. A couple of real quick things, Jerry. I'll get this done fast, honestly. I've always lived by three very, very simple sayings, or quotes, if you will. Know your heart, let it beat free, and follow it as you will. Okay? I've always been a little bit tight sometimes, but I've always been a bit of free spirit. And I've enjoyed that, and I'm so happy that I passed it on to my athletes. And another one is a prayer that my teams picked up on in the later years of my career, and it's faith in you, faith in me, and faith in what will be. It's a prayer that I say multiple times a day, and it gets me through some real tough times, and it helps me enjoy the good times even better. And then one that relates to my sport, but I also relate it to life, to love, to every aspect of it. It started out, if you're running with your ego, you're running with a fool. And then I started applying it to my life. If you're living with your ego, you're living with a fool. I apply it to my life in business. If you're selling with your ego, you're selling with a fool. So if you take anything, please take those couple thoughts. All right? Wow. Under 7 minutes? Damn it. Thank you all.